Gordon is incredibly proud of being the biggest and strongest engine, and is even more proud of being able to pull the express. His expression as he leaves the station is amusing. He looks like he's just seen something very strange, and is still trying to process it. Here we see footage being reused from the previous episode, which is something the classic seasons did sometimes to save the time. It's not a bad thing, because the kids wouldn't really notice it, and it's easily explained away by the characters just happening to be travelling down the same route as before. In the sad story of Henry, we saw that Gordon found Henry's situation amusing, and would often gloat about it, and here decides to do it again. In case you didn't remember, Henry got bricked up in the tunnel for refusing to come out because he didn't like the rain. Henry's moping around, feeling very sorry for himself, further continuing his misery from the last time. Gordon's attempt at shaming Henry backfires when he bursts his safety valve and gets stuck in place. Nice one, mate. Henry finds this very amusing and chuckles, accompanied by this little musical cue.
Henry laughing at me. Everyone.
Using little ditties here and there was another thing unique to the first season, as far as I can remember. It adds to the playful nature of this season especially. The Fat Controller isn't all too pleased, and tells Gordon that he's never liked the big engines because they're always going wrong. Now, this is only the second episode he's been in, and he's once again acting like a jerk. I'll chalk this up to early installment weirdness, because he does act a lot friendlier later on. But he's really made a poor first impression. First, by refusing to help out, and here, just berating his engines in such a way, telling them that he doesn't like them. In his defence, he is a busy man who does presumably put a lot of effort into running his railway, but to flat out tell Gordon that he doesn't like him is a little bit harsh for this series. He immediately sends for another engine to take over, while Gordon gets sent sheepishly into a siding. There's a few seconds of uninterrupted footage of Gordon moving, with machinery SFX and no background music. I'm starting to really like little scenes like these. Edward gets brought in to help out, because he's the only one left. He's more than happy to help out, but Gordon says that there's no way he'll be able to do it. Unfortunately, the big blue engine is proven right, and then he suggests letting Henry try instead. I've never really been sure if this was meant to be a sarcastic suggestion or not, but the Fat Controller agrees regardless. When asked if he'll help out, Henry eagerly agrees and gets let out, absolutely filthy from the soot and cobwebs. There's also this line.
Oh, I am stiff, he groaned.
In the very next shot, he's fresh and clean, so the air on Sodor must have some magical cleansing properties or something like that. Then, in the next shot after that, he's dirty again. Anyway, he drives away to turn around, and then he returns to the site of the incident to begin his little redemption arc. He gets coupled up to Gordon's Express with Edward at the back, and the two manage to successfully get the Express moving again. Gordon just looks on miserably. While the engines triumphantly puff away with the coaches, the Fat Controller leans out of a window, and the wind blows his hat off because they were going so fast. It goes right into a field, where a goat eats it for tea. I always wondered if anyone watching this episode outside of the UK would find this line weird, wondering what he meant by tea. I mean, I use it to describe what most people call dinner, and then what most people call lunch, I call dinner. That's just the way I've been brought up. But I digress. His expression as he looks back on his lost hat is pretty hilarious. The engines finally arrive at the station to let the passengers off, smiling happily as they do so. Despite being stranded for what was presumably a while in universe, they get off without much of a fuss and thank the engines. The Fat Controller promises Henry a new coat of paint, and I'm surprised that he didn't scold him or flat out warn him that he'd be scrapped if he ever tried pulling a stunt like that again. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if the guy did say something harsh like that at this point. On the return journey, the three railway engines link up, with Edward and Henry pushing Gordon back to the sheds. Gordon doesn't seem to mind having to be rescued, and Henry no longer minds the rain, because he knows that he can just ask his driver to give him a wash at the end of the day. It's nice seeing this. Edward, Gordon and Henry acts as the part 2 to the sad story of Henry, and it's nice to have a happy ending to the tale which started out so miserably. It's a nice, pleasant episode that restores the status quo of the engines being back to work, with none of them stuck anywhere. I'm not a big fan of the way the Fat Controller speaks to the engines, but it's important to remember that this was back in the early days when these were actual working machines on a busy working railway that had rules and regulations, and not what they are today. The Fat Controller wasn't really a kind and fatherly figure just yet. He was just the guy in charge, who had to make sure that everything was working properly. Seeing the goat eat his hat was a funny way to cap off his appearance in the episode. Henry's little arc of suddenly hating the rain, acting like a brat, getting punished for it, then getting a chance at redemption was nice to see, but personally, I would have liked to have had him stuck in there for at least one more episode, to really sell how long he'd spent bricked up, and make his subsequent freedom even more sweet to witness. Of course, it's because the story was written immediately after the sad story of Henry, because Audrey's publishers wanted to give the 3 railway engines a happy ending. And I'm not trying to say I'd be able to write a better story than the Reverend, but I do think it might have made it a bit more immersive and impactful if he'd been there a bit more longer. In this episode, I believe that we learn that after getting punishment, we sometimes get a second chance to make things right, and that it's always worth doing. Henry had time to reflect on his behaviour whilst in that tunnel, and came to realise the error of his ways. We also see that sometimes if a task is too difficult for one person to handle alone, then it may take an extra pair of hands, or in this case buffers, to get it done. Thank you for watching this episode. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what you think of this episode in the comments. And please look forward to the next episode, Thomas's Train. Thank you for watching.